Prepare for human origins. Welcome back to Season 2.
Welcome to your dose of wowness.
Imagine a limestone cave on the island of Flores, Indonesia. Heat, suffocating, humid heat. You're breathing in claustrophobic dirt. It's September 2003. An Australian-Indonesian excavation team had been scraping through this earth for years, digging, sweating, finding almost nothing but damp soil. They were explicitly searching for evidence of the very first modern humans to migrate through the region on their way down to Australia. So they kept digging deeper, deeper than they ever expected to go. And instead of finding human ancestors, 6 meters below the cave floor, the earth just gave way to a skull. A skeleton emerging from the dark, an impossible puzzle that absolutely broke everything we thought we knew about human evolution.
The bones told a shocking story. An adult, female, fully grown, standing exactly 3.5 feet tall. And listen, this isn't some rough estimation. It's a verifiable, physical measurement. She weighed perhaps 65 pounds, a tiny hominin buried deep beneath the earth. The sheer physical reality of her dimensions immediately sparked intense confusion inside that cave.
Her brain cavity was just 380 cubic centimeters, roughly the size of a grapefruit, a volume comparable to a chimpanzee's, barely a third the size of yours. The excavation team nicknamed her Flo. The sheer shock of this discovery sent an immediate tremor right through the entire archaeological community. The established timelines of human evolution shattered overnight. A creature with a brain this small, living this recently, simply was not supposed to exist.
So, what does this all mean? Was this a totally new species of human, unlike anything ever found? Or was she simply a sick person? A modern human with a rare, devastating disorder, misread by eager scientists as something she was never meant to be? This single unknown sparked one of the most vicious, contested fights in the history of human origins research. It took the scientific community the better part of 2 decades to answer that question, and in the years since, the answer has only gotten stranger.
Section 1. The Pathology War.
For over a decade, a very serious group of scientists argued Flora wasn't a new species at all. They argued she was a modern human, suffering from a developmental disorder. They had real evidence. They had real credentials. And for a while, they had a real chance of being right. Tukuku Jacob, Robert Eckhart, and Maciej Henneberg led the charge. They aggressively proposed diagnoses like microcephaly, Down syndrome, or Laron syndrome. But the pathology argument didn't collapse because someone won a debate in a lecture hall. It collapsed because the ground just kept giving up more skeletons. Digging deeper into Liang cave, excavators unearthed fragments of at least a dozen additional individuals. All of them shared the exact same distinctive anatomy over tens of thousands of years. Small body size, small brain volume, primitive limb proportions. A single anomalous skeleton is a compelling argument for a rare disease. A dozen identical skeletons scattered across millennia? That is a population.
The final blow came when someone looked directly inside Flo's skull. They used a digital scan most people have never even heard of. Dean Falk led a digital endocast analysis back in 2005. You are literally peering into the ghost of a brain that hasn't existed for 50,000 years. What they found in the shape of her brain changed the argument completely. The scan revealed complex, expanded frontal and temporal lobe folding patterns. This was not the shrunken, simplified brain structure characteristic of a disease like microcephaly. It was a highly capable, derived hominin brain. A small brain, sure, but a distinctly complex one.
Section 2. The Ocean Crossing Problem.
This skeleton created a completely different, much darker problem. The island of Flores sits on the wrong side of an invisible line in the ocean. Wallace's Line, a deep water boundary so old and so treacherous that even at the absolute lowest sea levels of the Ice Age, no land bridge ever crossed it. You are standing at the edge of an insurmountable geographic hurdle. And yet, stone tools found at Wolo Siege on Flores are 1 million years old. 1 million. Some hominin crossed at least 19 to 25 kilometers of deep, violent, open ocean to get there. They did this roughly 900,000 years before the earliest currently accepted evidence of deliberate seafaring technology. Something without boats, without language as we'd recognize it, crossed open ocean.
How? Well, imagine the sheer terror of being carried by the storm. Accidental rafting, massive mats of coastal vegetation, violently dislodged and swept out to sea during a catastrophic tsunami. The Indonesian archipelago sits on one of the most seismically active boundaries on Earth. A chaotic, terrifying event, screaming in the dark, clinging to debris. It only needed to succeed once.
One storm, one raft of desperate survivors to see the small, isolated founding population on a strange new island.
Section 3. The Mata Menge Ancestors.
Day 91. Season 2 starts here. 4 more explainers in the Human Origins arc are coming this week. Subscribe. Ring the bell. If you've been here since day 1 of Season 1, welcome back. If you're new, you picked a good week to start. Let's accelerate to August 2024. In 2024, scientists found the bone that tells us just how small that something already was. At a site 75 kilometers east of Liang, researchers pulled a 700,000-year-old adult arm bone right from the dirt, the lower portion of the upper arm. It is 9 to 16% shorter and thinner than Flores. It is the absolute smallest hominin limb bone ever found anywhere in the world. It proves that extreme island dwarfism happened rapidly after early Homo erectus arrived on Flores. They shrank fast, and they stayed small.
Now, a tiny brain does not mean primitive behavior. They survived the brutal reality of the island rule. We know they crafted sharp stone-flake tools. We know they butchered Stegodon florensis insularis, an endemic pygmy elephant weighing many times their own body mass. Just imagine the sheer coordination required for that. Bringing down an animal that massive with rocks and sharpened sticks demands coordinated, highly intelligent group hunting. And we have the ash layers proving controlled fire at Liang. They were highly capable, lethal survivors operating in a confined, extremely dangerous world.
Section 4. The slow extinction.
For 20 years, people naturally assumed something dramatic killed the hobbits off. A sudden volcano, a violent war with modern humans, some single catastrophic event. But a study published in December 2025 tells a slower, much sadder story. Scientists analyzed isotopes locked inside cave stalagmites to map out a bleak multi-thousand-year habitat collapse. 76,000 years ago, a severe drying trend begins. By 61,000 years ago, summer rainfall is suddenly cut in half. Rivers run completely dry. Severe drought starves the island. And then, around 50,000 years ago, a massive volcanic eruption chokes the sky with heavy ash. A slow, agonizing cascade of ecological stress acting on an isolated population with literally nowhere to run.
Then comes 46,000 years ago, the arrival. A 2016 chronological revision proved that the original dating of the Liang cave was actually flawed. The new verified data shows Homo floresiensis vanished from the cave around 50,000 years ago. Modern humans arrived at that specific cave roughly 4,000 years later. But did they ever meet in the surrounding valleys? Did our ancestors look across a dying drought-stricken ridge and see a 3-foot-tall hunter looking back? Were they forced into desperate, bloody competition for dwindling water? The current evidence leaves their potential interaction a haunting, completely open question.
There's also this striking cultural echo vibrating through the island today. The modern Naj people of Flores hold a deep, persistent oral tradition about the Ibu Gogo, small, hairy forest people who walked upright, stole food, and lived right alongside human villagers. Now, you have to treat this strictly as a cultural echo, of course, not scientific evidence, but the resonance is undeniable, haunting even, when you consider what lies buried deep beneath the island's dirt.
Here we are, day 91, the end of Season 2. You and I have spent countless hours together unpacking the dense, complex layers of reality. And just like human evolution, our pursuit of knowledge is not one straight line. It's a branching, twisting path. It requires patience. It requires the willingness to be wrong, to dig deeper, to look at the evidence when it shifts right beneath our feet. I am so deeply grateful for your presence on this journey, for your curiosity, for demanding depth in a world obsessed with the surface. The story of who we are is hidden in the dirt. Thank you for digging it up with me.
The standard story of the Americas is dead. Fossilized footprints perfectly preserved in ancient mud, a butchered mastodon site that completely shatters the established timeline. Tomorrow, day 92, the first Americans. We are walking through exactly why everything you were taught is completely wrong. See you there.